All right, so welcome to the Biohacking Beauty Podcast. My guest today is the wonderful Kayla Barnes. Kayla, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got to do what you do.
Absolutely. Well, it's such a pleasure to be here. A little bit about me. I studied human sciences at university, which was wonderful. But I started to experience about the age of 18 a lot of my own health issues. I was experiencing some brain fog. I was on ADHD medication for quite some time. At times took anxiety medication and was just hitting some of my own roadblocks in terms of health. So I, was seeing conventional doctors and just being prescribed different prescriptions and medications. And I knew that I had to look deeper. And, my studies kind of encouraged this, but I hired a team of about 3 different functional practitioners, from a nutritionist, dietitian, and an ND. And we really got to the root cause of what was going on. And at that point, I really got super interested in the brain because I wanted to be able to support my kind of professional endeavors and have less brain fog. As my overall health was clearing up, I realized that my brain was functioning so much better. So since then, I've spent the last 10 years in the health sector, and I now run a company called Brain Upgraded, in which we work with executives and other high performing individuals to really upregulate their cognitive performance and help to optimize the longevity of both their brain and their bodies.
That's wonderful. This is a topic that I think everyone should be interested in if they're interested in their how they look, how they function, and obviously what they can create in their life as far as success. It all starts and ends in our brain. Kayla, how would you define brain fog? Because I feel until that veil has been lifted, a lot of people wouldn't even know they're living with brain fog.
Absolutely. And it can be that way too with, even other cognitive ailments such as depression or anxiety. Sometimes people don't realize it until they start to come out of it. But brain fog, if you're waking up and you really can't turn your brain on, if you're forgetting thoughts or you're forgetting, where you place something, that's a pretty good indicator of brain fog. And then on the flip side, we have what a friend of mine, Dr. Romy, has coined busy brain, which is where you can't stay on track. So brain fog is more so when you can't get your brain kind of fired up and you can't collect your thoughts the way that you want to. And then busy brain is where you can't actually pull in your focus and, finalize a task. So there's 2 different things, but people usually suffer from one of those 2.
And do you feel that how limiting is it in for a normal person's life? I mean, is it something that maybe limits you about 1% of your peak performance? Is it something that limits you to 50% of your peak performance? How would why would someone strive to improve brain fog or busy brain?
Well, our brain is involved in everything that we do. Our brain decides the quality of our relationships, our personal relationships, how successful we're going to be in life, how happy we're going to be. Literally every single thing that we do and our future is dependent on the health of our brain. So for me, it's the most important thing that we can really focus on, and it can significantly impact your performance, because often if you have brain fog, you might also have a couple of other cognitive ailments that I mentioned. You could have ADHD, anxiety, depression. So a lot of these different symptoms kind of go hand in hand with other ailments. And if you can start to improve them, then everything will, start to improve. So I think it's of the utmost importance that we really start to talk about and care for our brains properly.
Definitely. And what are some of the key points or pillars that you see as far as our way of life, or what we do during our day, that it contributes to brain optimization or vice versa?
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, I think, our society has changed so much. I like to think of my practice and my approach as ancestral wisdom meets modern science, because there are so many things that we used to do right. And we've gotten away from a lot of them. So we're now having very highly processed diets. I just read that, a study came out in JAMA that said that even children's diets are almost 67% processed foods. I mean, these things didn't exist, when our ancestors are around. And to be quite honest, they are destroying the quality of our health, our looks, and our brains. So, processed food is definitely something that I always encourage clients and anyone that I speak to eliminate, because what you're consuming every day, it's so much more than just calories, it's information. And our bodies, every cell in our body, including every cell in our brain, is made up of what we eat. So processed food is a huge one. Sedentary time. Our ancestors were out hunting, gathering, foraging, eating seasonally. But sedentary time, we're so often in front of computers all day long, staring at the screens, not allowing our eyes to have a break, which is, showing to be quite detrimental to our vision. But also, it is not good for our brain. Grounding, being in nature, and taking walks outside to get that vitamin D on both your skin and your eyes is very important. So a lot of the things that we used to do, we've gotten away from. Same thing with exercise too. Walking has incredible benefits, but strength training several times a week is really good to not only increase your muscle mass. So later in life, when things like sarcopenia start to set in, you're going to have an edge. But there's just so many different things that we used to do, spending time with one another. Now we're constantly on our phones, and it's been proven and backed by science that having a really strong positive peer group and spending quality one-on-one time with people actually can improve your health. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can kind of go back to what we used to do, but utilize the new technology that we have and the innovation to benefit us on both sides.
Beautiful. That's right. And that I really like that you said that aside from immediate benefits or of like direct benefits we get from maybe eating better or moving ourselves, we're really signaling our body that it should go in a certain direction. It's a very interesting concept and something that definitely can guide someone in some gray areas, right? Because our body is not going to keep whatever you're not asking it to keep. It's not going to evolve in a direction you're not asking it or demanding, putting a demand on the body to evolve in a certain way. And unfortunately, the opposite happens. If we are sedentary, if we are, immobile, our body is literally going to evolve to only perform the functions that we ask it. I recently I'm obsessed with knee health, and I realized that from years of sitting in front of a computer in the classroom, wherever that may be, I didn't put a demand on my knee to really have a full range of motion. And I'm one of those people, like most people in Western society, that can't do what we call an Asian squat, where you go with your butt all the way to your heels and are comfortable sitting that way. So that's a nice analogy, but that happens everywhere. What are some of the signals, aside from what you talked about, or maybe you want to expand, what are some of the signals that you make sure that you kind of communicate to your body or to your brain?
Absolutely. So, I mean, just to speak about the knee, mobility is also so important, because
Yeah.
as we age, that declines, and the speed of how fast people can walk has actually been connected to how long they'll live. So, very important. But some signals that you might be going in the wrong direction. I mean, you're not getting quality sleep at night. You wake up and you're not fully rested, or you feel like you have no energy. You can't, what I said before, turn your brain on. So you don't feel as if you're really able to enter a flow state. You're having anxiety or feeling symptoms of depression. These are all things that can be heavily influenced by our gut and our microbiome. And that all is related to what we're putting into our body. So just to say it bluntly, if you eat junk, you're going to feel like junk. You're going to perform like junk. So it's incredibly important to put high quality fuel into our, so-called tank, but really into our body.
Definitely. And you did mention my one of my favorite topics, which is the gut-brain axis. So for people who aren't familiar with it, who think that their brain is separate from the rest of their body, or their brain's health is separate from the rest of their body, could you expand on what is that connection between our gut and our brain? How does it work? How do we affect it?
Absolutely. So the gut and the brain are directly connected. In many ways, the gut is called the second brain. So most of our serotonin, about 70 to 80% of our serotonin, which is a neurochemical that actually makes you more happy. So it's called the happiness chemical. And most of it is housed in our gut. So if you have gut dysbiosis, which unfortunately the majority of the population has to some extent, and that's because of the quality of food. People are not getting enough prebiotics, probiotics from the food, and they're eating highly processed food, a lot of sugar, drinking a lot of alcohol, which the alcohol is very difficult on the gut. It's also terrible for your sleep. I feel like I lose some friends when I say alcohol is not a health food. I feel like there's been so many different ways to try to find like some benefit. Yes, there's resveratrol, but you can consume resveratrol in many other ways that won't completely wreck your sleep. But going back to the gut, they're directly connected. As I said, it's called the second brain. So it's incredibly important to focus on your gut health. I always recommend people to receive a gut test, because there's so many different strains of probiotics. And if you just guess and you grab some probiotics off the shelf, it could actually be doing more damage than good, because you have to know what the gut actually looks like and where the dysbiosis comes in order for you to be able to correct it. But if you can optimize your gut health, your brain health will significantly improve.
So walk me through what one should do as far as optimizing their gut, because you did mention a test. Where does one get this test? Can they do it on their own? Do they need to communicate with a specific health practitioner?
Yes, so you need to see a functional medicine practitioner, or at my practice, we call these in for all of our clients, because for me, you can't make a diagnosis. You can't really start to treat a client without understanding exactly what's going on. So there are several different tests. There's a gut zoomer, there's a GI diagnostic test. So they're both really good, but you really want to get that super in-depth look. So you can do that by either finding a functional medicine practitioner in your area, or we also can call those tests in for you.
So how does your business model work? So is it normally face-to-face? Are you doing it online now, especially during COVID, probably?
Yeah, mostly telemedicine. So we can do consults all over the world, but we definitely take a very holistic but proven and science-backed approach towards all of our new clients. We look at all of their biomarkers to start, and then we work on personalized nutrition, a personalized lifestyle plan. And each client is different, of course. Some of our clients are extremely active. Some are not as active. Some come to us with different cognitive ailments that they're looking to improve. So each basically prescription for them, meaning lifestyle and health, is all very individualized. But it's a lot of fun because people just are getting their joy back in life. They're feeling their best, because my goal is never to just make you feel better. I want you to feel incredible. I want you to be able to show up for your family, your friends. And I try to do that with my Instagram audience as well. I try to offer all sorts of different information, of course, primarily focused on the brain, but I want people to literally feel great. And I feel as if, and it's not just a feeling, it's a fact based on data and the science that's coming out, is so many people are, experiencing type 2 diabetes and are overweight or not feeling well in general. Chronic disease is just skyrocketing. And in my opinion, it's so closely linked not only to the food for sure, but our lifestyle. So if you can change your lifestyle, then you can change your life and your happiness.
Correct. And and our lifestyle are basically whether it's benefiting us or not is just a bunch of habits. It's an accumulation of habits that we do on a regular basis, and obviously by changing. So if we just isolate habit by habit, it does make sense that we can change habit by habit and change the course of our life and our health accordingly. So Kayla, we, kind of before we went on air, we spoke about the link between a healthy brain, a healthy body, and its manifestation, which is healthy skin, and how the skin can be kind of a business card, report card to how well we're doing as far as our internal organs and our brain. So tell me a little bit about what other benefits do people see? You started to tell that, but maybe you can expand. What other benefits do people see when they do go through that route of changing their lifestyle, changing their habits, and improving their brain function?
So a lot of people, if they come in and they have skin issues or ailments, like you said, and we talked about before, your skin is just a report card on how you're doing internally. So unfortunately, if you are really struggling with your skin, it is like a siren going off telling you that something is not right internally. So in a way, we're blessed to even be able to see this. And I know it's something very difficult, and life would be easier without acne, right? That's just a fact. But it's also letting you know, if you look at it that way, that something is off. So that could be a food sensitivity. Maybe let's just say, for example, you heard that kale is a superfood and you're eating kale all the time, or all almonds or walnuts or whatever it may be. But if you have a slight sensitivity, and there's a big difference between a food sensitivity and a food allergy. A sensitivity, you might not ever even pick it up. It could cause maybe a little bit of bloating. It can cause skin issues. But if you have a food sensitivity test ran, and you see, oh, wow, I've been eating almonds like crazy because I heard it's good for you, but you have a sensitivity, that can lead to skin issues. If you run your gut tests and you see that your microbiome was off, even if you are doing healthy habits, but it's still off, because stress can wreck your gut. So a lot of, times, very type A, even exercising all the time, obsessing over what they eat, their gut can still be really off because of the levels of stress that they're applying to themselves or their jobs. So it's really this full picture approach that you have to take, but your skin is going to let you know exactly how you're doing internally. Lack of water, so many different things. But once you start to change your diet, meditate, manage stress, odds are you're definitely going to see a big change in your skin.
Why would managing stress be so important for your health, for your gut, for your skin? What does stress do for us? Because it seems like everyone's stressed to some extent. There are positive types of stress, like working out, to some extent. So why is emotional stress so bad for us?
Emotional stress over time, it activates what's called our sympathetic nervous system. And going back to the comparison of our ancestors, so for the most part, their bodies were in a parasympathetic state, which is a more relaxed state. The only time that they really went into a sympathetic state was if they were being chased by a tiger or couldn't find food or something major event happened. Now we're under those conditions constantly. And our bodies were not made to do that. We were meant to relax. We were meant to have some peace of mind. And so what it does is it causes chronic inflammation when you're constantly stressed. Then add on, different environmental toxins, all of these things, and it just becomes this kind of snowball effect. But having very high levels of cortisol in your body, which is a stress hormone, is not healthy for you. So it's really important that you can get yourself into a parasympathetic state, which is a relaxed state, on a daily basis. That can be through meditation. It can be through non-sleep deep rest, an app like Reverie or something, or through breath work, or just doing something that can really take your body into a more relaxed state. But it's incredibly important, because even if you're doing every single thing right in terms of diet and health, if you don't have quality relationships in your life and you don't have peace of mind and you're not able to relax, you still will never achieve optimal health in the way that I define it.
Definitely. And we can see any research that really delves into holistic approaches to longevity, to health, really emphasize communal relationships, right? A sense of well-being, communal relationships, a sense of purpose in life. So definitely, it seems like these are birds of the same feather. Are the way what we put in our stomach, the health of the food that we eat, and the health of our thoughts and our surroundings. So if someone came to you and you've realized that they are maybe hyper stressed or something like that, are there different biohacks? Are there different things that you can kind of get them to do that maybe would shortcut some of those longer processes like meditation?
Well, let's definitely dive into biohacks, but I can't speak about the benefits of meditation anymore, because meditation, it literally physically changes the structures in your brain. It can improve the gray matter. It can increase the size of your cortical hippocampus, and that is related to focus. It can decrease the fear centers in the brain, like the amygdala. And it can actually, so it benefits the positive emotions while decreasing the negative emotions. And it literally keeps your brain younger for longer. So with that being said, there are some things that you can do that I'm a big fan of in terms of the real biohacking space to benefit your brain. One of them would be hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I was trained by Dr. Daniel Amen, and in my opinion, he's the most renowned brain doctor in the world. And, if you come in with a TBI, for instance, a traumatic brain injury, one of the first prescriptions is always hyperbaric oxygen therapy. But hyperbaric, which is essentially you're in a chamber or, a cubicle of oxygen that is 100% oxygen, when the oxygen that we breathe every day is significantly lower than that. So pure oxygen with also additional pressure. So it's almost like you're underwater. So you have the pressure and you have the oxygen, which is incredible for wound healing, boosting your immune system, but it's really, really good for increasing blood flow to the brain. So when we look at the SPECT scans, and I have quite a few of them posted on my page, you see almost what look like holes, but those aren't holes in the brain. They're areas of low blood flow. And so oftentimes, it could be from alcoholism, it could be from a contact sport injury or a car accident, but people, let's say, for instance, you've lost a lot of blood flow in the prefrontal cortex, which is associated with a lot of your decision making, your executive function, all of these things that we really need to navigate life and become successful. It's going to be more difficult to do those. So hyperbaric oxygen therapy is an incredible way to improve blood flow all throughout the brain. Another thing that I really love, and you can just kind of Google if you're looking for hyperbaric oxygen near you, just Google and kind of vet the options. And the same thing with something called an ozone sauna, or what's called a Hocket. Have you ever tried one?
I haven't.
Okay, really, really cool device. So ozone, it's been around for about 150 years being used for medical purposes, but this is still a very, I would say, under the radar treatment or therapy. But ozone, it can kill bacteria, it can kill viruses. But what it does is it's a mixture between an actual sauna, so the temperature, it's a wet sauna, so the temperature is going to increase in your body. And then the ozone's actually going to go directly in. I also have ozone in my home. A lot of dentist office use it for mouth health, which mouth health, of course, is also very connected to overall health, cardiovascular health. But the ozone sauna is another way to increase blood flow to the brain. It's also great for detoxing. So inside this little chamber, which your head just sticks out and you are covered from the waist down, you have PEMF, which is pulse electromagnetic field. Then you have the ozone and you have the sauna. So it's like a 3-in-1 treatment that you sit in for about half an hour. And that's another way to really increase the blood flow to your brain. A couple things that I like to do at home. I have a red light therapy panel here. So I think it's great for skin health. I would love to hear your opinion on that. But I do that several times a week for skin health, and then of course for mitochondrial health. And there's also been some studies showing it can lower inflammation, systemic inflammation. So I do the red light panel a few times a week. I also have, it's called the Haleo PEMF at my home, which when we're talking about PEMF, there's really two different therapies, I guess. So there's a PEM device that you lay on, and it's quite aggressive. So it's really putting those electrofields, and they're not the bad EMFs. These are good, the pulse electromagnetic fields, but either it can kind of shock your body and have them go deep into you, or with the device that I have, you don't actually feel it shocking you, because that can also be, if you are already having high stress levels and then you start doing something every day like PEMF, and it's actually really causing an external force, then that could increase your cortisol too. So the one that I have, the actual frequencies are layered over a top of each other, and this can help improve blood flow. It can help improve athletic performance, and they have some studies on gut health improvement as well. And additionally, there's some settings for right before bed if you have trouble going to sleep, because sleep is one of the most important parts of our day. It can help you be put into a more relaxed state by changing the way that your brain waves are actually syncing throughout the evening hours.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So yeah, I have actually, so we'll talk about infrared in a second, which obviously is an amazing topic in general and something that's very close to my heart. But I would like to tell you about, so one of the biggest, I think one of the most popular PEMF brands out there is called Pulse. If you go to any biohacking conference or a lot of
The
more
Pulse
high-end,
XL,
yeah,
when you lay on, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I know it.
And I have had a few experiences, a few times being treated with that. And I can tell you that the first time that I was treated with laying on that pulse bed, it was, maybe I had higher stress levels. It was very stressful on my body, and I felt like, kind of run down after a session, and it wasn't the best thing for me. But in contrast, trying it, I think 2-3 years later, that was probably in April of this year. I've had 2 consecutive treatments, so day after day, and I felt after the second treatment, I've had some neck problems back then from doing jujitsu, and that was an amazing experience, which I feel carried with me. I mean, the health benefits carried with me for a while. So definitely.
Absolutely. So yes, there is a place for that. And I actually do that one a couple times a week. But if you're going to be doing it on a daily basis, so exercise, cold therapy, fasting, the pulse, these are all what we would call hormetic stressors. So they're good stressors. But if you're already in an extremely stressed state, and for instance, if you own this device at home and you do that every day at a high setting, because we know you can drop it down and then it's not too aggressive, but just if you're doing it on a daily basis and you have a lot of stress in your life, then that's not a good combination. So I love intermittent fasting. I love cold therapy. I love really, really intense exercise. But if you feel as if, you're not doing so well mentally, or you have a ton of stress on your plate that week, it's also advised, in my opinion, to take it easier. So that's why I like to actually do both, because there's definitely a place for both. But for me, just doing a PEMF on a daily basis, having a device that's a little bit more subtle is helpful.
Great. And I love that you use the word hormesis. It's obviously a word that's going to be used in anti-aging medicine and biohacking for many years to come. I feel like most people, it's still not as a common word as we're gonna witness in a few years. So first of all, if you could talk a little bit about what
PRP would be like a PRP, and microneedling would be like, it's a hormetic stressor to your skin, right? You're doing a bit of damage, but then it's going to heal in a better place than it was before.
100%. And we can look at suctioning as a hormetic process. We can look at turmeric and resveratrol as hormetic plants that we eat. They stress our system a little bit, and our system kind of overcompensates in order to be more resilient the next time it encounters them. And I really like, to anyone who hasn't read the book Lifespan by Dr. David Sinclair. It's an amazing book, and I love how he describes the relationship between our ancestral past and plants that were around us, and the fact that we weren't very developed as far as kind of sensing changes in the environment, and what we developed as a way to sense the reaction of plants to stressors. And that is why there are plants such as resveratrol, which is found in grapes and berries, and curcumin, which is found in turmeric, and anti-inflammatory responses, among other things. But everything has kind of has a point where it's too much, right? So if these are stressors and you just accumulate them, just think of working out too hard to a point where you tear a muscle, you get an injury. So that can be an accumulation of different signals of stress and repair. And going to light therapy, which is one of the classic ways for us to cause hormesis in our body. What light therapy does basically is, and what's interesting is the diabetic drug metformin does the same in a different way, which it stresses our mitochondria and actually causes the mitochondria to kind of clean itself out, clean nitric oxide, which interrupts with utilizing oxygen in the mitochondria, reactive oxygen species, which are those oxygen molecules who couldn't be utilized and become oxidative stress, which we all know. And through that relationship with the mitochondria, we can achieve amazing benefits, whether it would be for our skin. We can talk a little bit about how it affects the brain specifically, and hair growth, muscle recovery, nerve, cartilage, bone. It has a lot of benefits. And there are companies who are looking into light therapy and brain health, right?
There are, yeah. But it also can, I think, go back to what we were talking about earlier. What's good for the body is also good for the brain. So improving your mitochondrial function across the board is going to be great for your brain. Reducing inflammation is going to be great for the brain. And, when we speak about fasting and kind of, it sparked the idea, senescent cells, when some of these senescent cells can start to get cleared out, that's also, of course, very helpful to the brain and body. So I like doing red light therapy. I try to do it 4 times a week or so. And I definitely started to, as you see, I always wear my hair back. So I just around my hairline, was starting to lose some of those really fine hairs. And I got some, peptides actually from TaylorMade and a little roller. I don't use the roller on my face, but the micro needling roller, but I do use it right on my hair, but I don't use it on my face. And then just doing red light therapy on top of that.
And you're talking about the peptide GHQCU. I know they have 2 different types of compounds which they use for hair growth. So which one are you using?
I have both of them, actually. They have the duo and then the GHQCU. So I actually have both. I just, I'm a biohacker at heart. I've tried so many different things. I mean, cold tubs, ozone at my home, ozone other places, literally cryotherapy several times a week, PEMF, all sorts of different stuff I'm doing all the time. So I just like to try it out. But I think that it's definitely working. I'm seeing some results. So it's interesting. I'm continuing to explore it.
So actually, going back, so talking a little bit about GHQCU, which another name for it is copper tripeptide 1, which means it's a peptide that's kind of bound to a copper molecule. It's very interesting how levels of it in the blood can kind of attest to how well our body copes with aging. And we are actually using Young Goose, our skincare company, is actually using GHQCU in our eye cream, because one of One major aspect of skin aging is glycation, which to kind of save on time leads to thinning of the skin, and it's very apparent around the thin skin of the eyes. And what GHQCU incorporated into a plethora of peptides that we have within that eye cream, what they do in conjunction, and especially GHQCU, they prevent that process of glycation and maintain proper, healthy skin thickness, which is very, very important, which contributes to how well our skin retains moisture, moves, prevention of wrinkles, treatment of wrinkles, etc. Yeah, so what I wanted to ask you about is there is an amazing company that I can't speak enough about, which is called Violite. I'm sure you've heard about Violite.
I have, yeah.
And their endeavor to treat dementia and Alzheimer's, as far as I know, maybe some other things that I'm not aware of, with red light therapy. As far as you know, is it successful?
Alzheimer's and dementia, it's such a complicated diagnosis. And I believe, you've probably seen it, but there have been some new drugs approved recently.
Yeah.
I have definitely seen some of the studies, but I don't know where they're at exactly with the outcomes. But for me, as long as something's proven to be safe, I would certainly be doing as many things as possible in terms of lifestyle interventions, because we also know that Alzheimer's starts developing 20 to 30 years before you ever present a symptom. Not in every case, but it can. So what we do today, even in our 20s or 30s or 40s, is so incredibly important to what we're going to feel like, and that's why I actually love David Sinclair. I love his book. I love all of his work. I'm a big fan. But it's not just about extending the lifespan. It's about extending our health span, because we want to feel, I think Mark Hyman says he wants to, or no, sorry, Dave Asprey says he wants to die at like a time and place, or time and way of his own choosing, So it's not about like you live a really long time, but you are not able to move, you're not able to live life. Really, like achieving optimal health is just extending our health span so we can live longer and feel great.
100%. And I really like the recent message from Dave Asprey, where he says it's not only about how long you're going to live, it's how much life you're going to have within your living years, which to me really simplifies it. But definitely it's a good idea to talk about health span rather than lifespan, because life is happening as we speak, right? We want to feel our best right now, but we also want to cultivate habits that make sure we feel our best as we grow older.
Absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
forgetting your family members, or, all of the very sad symptoms that come along with Alzheimer's, if it's possible at all, you have to do whatever you can to prevent that. So you can remember your family and enjoy life for longer.
Correct. And so going back to, let's say, Alzheimer's is very, very specific, and I feel like someone should really seek a holistic treatment and not kind of pick and choose what they're listening on in a podcast. But let's talk about how we maintain brain health over time, as far as specific things we can do. Even obviously, we did speak about how exercise contributes to brain health and intermittent fasting. But over time, how does brain aging look like, and how do these processes really maintain the brain's health?
So the most damaging thing to the brain is toxins, really, whether that be alcohol, whether that be drugs, whether that be mold, whether it be environmental toxins in our home. Now we have this other whole side of things with EMFs. There was a study saying that using your phone for 17 minutes a day on your head to your ear for 10 years, your risk of brain cancer goes up 60%. So
wow.
First, and of course, like reducing toxic exposure and burden, because all of that directly affects your brain. So if you want to keep a young brain, then you have to limit or completely get rid of these environmental toxins. I understand that it's part of society that in order to have fun, we need to have alcohol. For me, that's not the case. I do have a drink every now and then, maybe a few, one drink like every few months, but for the most part, and to be honest, in my near future, I see myself not drinking at all, because once you see the scans, you can never unsee it. You know, every time I do even take a sip, and when I'm having one glass every 3 months, I still feel as if I'm not optimizing my health. So we have to remove the toxins, and then we have to put the good stuff in. So I have some posts on a brain healthy diet, but you know, omega-3s from like a wild caught salmon or anchovies or liver is honestly, I mean, personally, I'm trying to get to like the taste. I'm struggling. And I think a lot of people have that issue. So I'm taking ancestral supplements, just the liver, but I am going to get there. I'm trying to eat liver chips. So diet is really everything. And then berries, I like to choose low glycemic berries such as blueberries and blackberries. Walnuts are really great. But you know, when it comes to nuts, something that's important to think about, and cooking in general, these high heat cooking methods, they create something called AGEs, which is like end glycation products, and that can increase inflammation in the body. So when we're talking about cooking, I try to cook mostly in a sous vide. So it's a French method of cooking by warming the water. And then if I'm making a grass-fed, grass-finished steak, I'll just slightly, really quick sear it, because for the most part, you don't want to be cooking at those high temperatures, which I have a friend who's a longevity researcher. His name's James Clement. He actually conducted one of the first super centenarian studies and went around the world and spoke to people and tested the blood of people over 100 years old. And he brought this to my attention. He has a great book called The Switch, if you ever have a chance to read it, but it talks about turning, up autophagy, turning down mTOR, and how we're so often in this state of growth or mTOR, and we need to be going into autophagy more. So diet is major. Exercise, it boosts brain-derived neurotrophic factor, it boosts your dopamine, it boosts your serotonin. There have actually been studies that have been exercise versus some of the top antidepressants. And in no way am I saying anyone go off antidepressants, because it's very important that you speak with your doctor and you have supervision. But some of the studies that they actually did head-to-head exercise beat out these top antidepressants. So, you know, there's also science to back dark chocolate for brain health and for mood support. I eat 2 pieces of dark chocolate, 70% cacao or more, because milk chocolate doesn't quite do it in terms of the antioxidants and the benefits. But dark chocolate is another great thing to incorporate into your diet. Salmon roe, oysters, all of these foods are really beneficial to the brain, and you want to nourish it. Healthy fats like avocado oil, ghee, avocados. Your brain is mostly fat and water. So it's really important that you properly nourish it. And sleep, if you have to prioritize sleep. We live in this society where, you know, less sleep is better or something, and it's more productive to sleep less, and it's like a badge of honor, but it absolutely is not. Number one, you're going to be significantly more productive if you take the time to sleep at night. And number two, while we're sleeping, our lymphatic system is activated. The lymphatic system actually clears out the cellular garbage and the waste in our brains while we're sleeping. So if we're not getting adequate sleep, our brains are not being cleared of the waste. And that's one way that beta amyloid plaques, which then lead to Alzheimer's, can start to actually develop when our brains can't clear out the way that they're supposed to. So sleep is so important. I use an Oura ring. I'm not sure if you have one, but I've had it for about 4 years, and it shows me my deep sleep, my REM sleep, light sleep, because even if you are going to bed for between 7 and 9 hours, which is what's recommended for an adult, if you're not getting quality sleep, you're still not hitting the marks that you need to fully rest your brain and to rest your body and to really have those neuroprotective effects that sleep offers.
Yeah, amazing. And that last piece of information is very important. And I actually wanted to circle back to the Oura ring. I specifically, because again, I'm involved in contact sports, which don't allow me to wear a ring. I prefer the whoop strap, which are very similar.
Yeah.
And as far as going back a little bit about different stimulation, different type of stressors we expose ourselves to, positive stressors, is it something that you can gauge as far as your heart rate variability and kind of know how much stress you can put on your body?
Yes, heart rate variability is definitely a good way to measure stress. I will say though, heart rate variability is so individual. So for someone, it could be their baseline could be 60. So, and then someone else, it could be 120. You know, it really just depends. But what's most important is if you do have an Aura ring or a monitor like Whoop, is to check how much it changes. So that's really like in that section is where you're going to know if you have too much stress on your body or too less, versus comparing my score versus your score, for instance. But yes, heart rate variability, I think, is a great way to measure the stress that's actually on your body. And you know, something about alcohol, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but on my Aura ring, if I do have even a drink or two drinks, this really was like a big catalyst into me, you know, really kind of cutting it very, very minimal. But my HRV will drop by half if I have
Wow.
a couple of drinks, half. And that's because it's wrecking your sleep. So people think alcohol puts them to sleep, but which it can a little bit induce that sleepy stage. But then while sleeping and the alcohol burns off and the sugar, it spikes throughout your body. It's just absolutely trashing your deeper levels of sleep. So yeah, HRV is a really cool metric that I found. Also meditation makes a big difference in HRV levels.
Amazing. And yeah, meditation and HRV are definitely connected. Do you have any experience with stimulating the vagus nerve in order to improve your HRV?
Yes, actually. So I have a device, and you don't need a device. You can cold showers actually can help to stimulate the vagus nerve. So every day, most days actually, I do my regular shower and then I turn it as cold as possible, so that not only will it improve, you know, inflammation levels in the body, it's super energizing, but it also can help stimulate the vagus nerve. And then I also have a device, it's called the Sensit, which it has these slow pulses, and that's also meant to stimulate the vagus nerve. But by humming, chanting, you know, chanting during meditation, that also can stimulate the vagus nerve, which there have been links to, you know, stronger vagal tone and improved HRV.
Amazing. So really to kind of sum up the message that this podcast is kind of trying to convey, maybe you can fill in what I'm missing, but really we want to, from the perspective of brain health, if we want to improve brain health, we should really be looking at improvement of our entire well-being, and that can be through lowering inflammation through different ways, making sure we move and exercise, making sure we get adequate amount of sleep, which is congruent with what we need on a regular basis. The food that we eat is very, very important, and the environmental toxins that we expose ourselves to are very important. And then we can improve it with different biohacking methods, different hormetic processes that we expose ourselves to. Is there anything that I'm missing there as a kind of a elevator pitch?
I mean, I think that you pretty much summed it up. And yeah, on my Instagram, I make posts about what I call superhuman habits all the time. You know, the only thing I guess we would add is we also want to be mentally training. So reading new books, learning a new language, constantly exercising those mental muscles. So in combination with our lifestyle changes and biohacking options, if we can really continue to always learn, which, you know, I think people on this podcast are most likely already doing. So that's very important.
Amazing, Kayla. I really appreciate this podcast. I feel like anyone who would hear this podcast can kind of tweak one habit or two habits that they're doing wrong or not doing or overdoing, and really improve the way that their center console, that how their brain functions, and that would affect any aspect of their lives that they can imagine or not imagine. Do me a favor, in case someone kind of fast forwarded or had brain fog. What is the best way to reach you? how can someone kind of follow what you're doing, and how can someone engage with you if they want to hire or use your services?
So my Instagram, I put out free content just about every day. It's my name at Kayla Barnes, KaylaBarnes. And my company website is brain-upgraded.com. And it has a whole lay of the land of how we work and what we offer. So yes, those are the two places to find me.
Amazing. And of course, we're going to add links to all of those in the description. And I want to thank you, Kayla, personally. You are really, for me, you're one of my best sources of knowledge as far as brain function and brain optimization. Highly recommended just to consume as much of your content as possible, which you do generously put out there, and highly recommend to hire your services. And I hope we can do it again and maybe delve into a specific process or function further.
Absolutely. It would be my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.